Halo, Mbak Zahwa, already?
Kak, oh sorry, you're mute.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Let's restart the conference international. Sorry for waiting too long because have some issue technique. Okay. Greetings. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fenina Beriana Putri, and I'm very happy to be your moderator for this session. On behalf of the commit, I warmly welcome you to the International Conference on Interdisciplinarity for Sustainable Development, INTERDISCH 2025, organized by APTISI Commissarian 6B together with Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia, UNIB. Thank you for joining us, and I hope this session will be useful and enjoyable for all of you. Before we begin, let me introduce our speaker for this session. First, Ms. Tripayara Mulyananda as an alumni. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And then the
Okay.
second is Ms. Talita Artanti as a student. Are you here, my voice?
Yes, over here.
Okay, please answer present if hello. Yes, please answer present. Miss Aninda Rizkita Rusiana as a student.
Present, Miss.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hariman Muhammad Effendi as a alumni.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad Rozan Akila as a student.
Present.
Thank you. And then the last one is Meisha Dwiana as a student.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much for the presenter already joining here. To keep our session running smoothly, I kindly remind everyone, first, please keep your microphone mute during the presentation. The second, you can put your questions in the chat box. Okay, and then the third is we encourage you to join the Q&A after each presentation. Any questions? Any questions?
Miss.
Okay,
No, Miss.
thank you for your cooperation. Okay, now it's my pleasure to invite Ms. Tripayara Mulyananda as an alumni to present their topic about the influence of financial target and auditor switching on financial statement fraud, an empirical study on mining sector company list on the Indonesia Stock Exchange for the period 2019 until 2023. The presentation will take about 10 minutes and then followed by a short Q&A after the session. Okay, Ms. Tripayara, it's your time for the presentation.
I'm sorry.
Miss Zahwa, are you there? Hello. Please wait. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Tripa and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my research today. The title of my study is The Influence of Financial Target and Auditor Switching on Financial Statement Fraud, an empirical study on mining sector companies listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange for the period 2019 to 2023. So first, let me introduce the background of this research. Financial statements describe the financial condition of a company over a certain period of time. Absolutely, companies always want their financial condition to be good, but sometimes this goal cannot be achieved, which can lead to manipulation of financial statement so that the company can present a good picture. When manipulation occurs, the information conveyed within it considered invalid and cannot be used in decision making. And when financial statements are not presented in accordance with applicable regulation, it can lead to act of fraud. So the picture highlights three main types of occupational fraud reported by the SCFE in Report to the Nation 2024. Financial statement fraud is the less common with 5% of cases, which is the less common type of fraud, but result is in the largest losses at $766,000. So, financial statement fraud involves false statement or manipulation by company official to hide the true financial condition. There are factors that can trigger fraud, including pressure and rationalization. The first is pressure, which refers to situation where individuals feel pushed to commit fraud, such as when shareholders set financial targets that are unrealistic high, placing excessive pressure on management. The second is rationalization, where someone justifies dishonest actions. Fraudsters may believe their actions are acceptable or won't be detected, especially after auditor switching, since new auditors may not fully understand the company's condition. So next slide for literature review. In this study, the researcher used agency theory as the grand theory. Then, financial statement fraud is used as the dependent variable, with financial target and auditor switching as the independent variable. For the research methodology, the research was conducted as an empirical study on mining industry sector companies using a quantitative research approach. Using purposive sampling, 45 annual reports were selected from the financial reports of companies in the population. And data processing in this research used SPSS 25 application. So for the result and discussion, the results show that the financial target variable has a positive and significant influence on financial statement fraud. Higher ROA reflects better management performance, but pressure to meet financial targets may lead to fraud through improper means. Second is the result indicate that the auditor switching variable has no significant influence on financial statement fraud. This insignificant result may be due to the possibility that the companies included in the research sample perform auditor switching not to cover up or eliminate existing financial statement fraud, but to comply with government regulation. And the last is financial target and auditor switching together influence financial statement fraud. For the conclusion, financial target has a positive and significant influence of 22.4% on financial statement fraud. Auditor switching has no influence on financial statement fraud. Meanwhile, financial target and auditor switching simultaneously have a positive and significant influence of 23.1% on financial statement fraud. Okay, to wrap up, this research highlights the significant role financial target play in influencing financial statement fraud, while auditor switching seems to have less of an impact during the study period. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much for Ms. Tripayara for the presentation, for the clear and interesting presentation. Now we will continue with our Q&A and then have someone asking about let me read the Q&A. Case involving public accountants in suspected financial report manipulation occur frequently. So how can fraud resulting from collusion between public accountants and company be prevented? Yes, Ms. Tripayara, can you answer the questions? Ms. Tripayara? Your voice not clearly. Yes, can you answering the questions?
Okay, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, the questions is case involving public accountants is suspected financial report manipulation occur frequently. So how can fraud resulting from collusion between public accountants and company be prevented?
Okay, wait. So for one effective way to prevent fraud resulting from a collision between public accountants or PAEs and companies is by implementing stricter regulation and oversight toward external auditors. So in Indonesia, the Financial Service Authority or OJK issue government regulation number I'm sorry, wait. 13 of 2017 concerning the use of public accountants and public accountant firms in financial service activities. This regulation mandates that financial institution may only engage the same public accountant for a maximum of 3 consecutive fiscal years. So in my study, I examined mining sector companies listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange during 2019 to 2023 period using the F-score model, or one of the most widely used methods to detect financial statement fraud. So according to this model, an F-score greater than 1 indicates a company is potentially engaging in fraudulent financial reporting, and the result for the company with ticker code BRMS was 1.9, which is above the threshold, meaning it is classified as fraud indicate. So interestingly, BRMS also frequently change its external auditor almost every fiscal years. Such frequent auditor switching may reflect an attempt to obscure past financial manipulation. and as incoming auditors face limitation in research and access to historical content, making it harder to detect previous fraud. So this highlights the importance of auditor continuity and the role of regulation in reducing audit-related fraud risk. Thank you. That's for my answer.
Okay, thank you very much for Ms. Tripaya for the presentation and also the answer. Now let's move on to our next speaker, and I'm glad to invite Ms. Talita Artanti as a student with the titles Designing an Illustrated ebook of 12 Traditional Nusantara Foods for Adults 23 until 30 years old in Bandung City. It's your time.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Talita Artanti, and I would like to present you Designing an Illustrated ebook of 12 Traditional Nusantara Foods for Adults 23 until 20 years old in Bandung City. For the introduction, food is an essential part of cultural identity. It doesn't just reflect eating habits, but also carries story of history, tradition, and local wisdom. In today's fast-paced global era, traditional Indonesian food is slowly being overshadowed by fast food and foreign dishes. This shift has led to a decline in younger generation awareness of the cultural richness found in regional dishes. That's why creative and educational efforts are needed to reintroduce traditional foods to the wider public in ways that are engaging the repellent. One such effort of creation an illustrated ebook featuring 12 traditional Indonesian dishes from different regions. This ebook is designed as a visual and educational medium to spark interest in local culinary culture, especially among younger audience. For the problem identification, amid globalization and modernization, traditional Indonesian food is gradually losing a presence, especially among the younger generation. Many young people are more familiar with fast food and foreign cuisines than their own regional dishes. As a result, awareness of the diversity in Indonesian culinary culture and the value behind the continues of decline. One of that, most of media used to promote traditional food tends to be formal and visual unappealing, making a less engaging for today's audience. Therefore, there is a need for more attractive visual rich medium that can attract younger audience in a more creative way. Next, for the design objective, this ebook project aims to 1. Reintroduce traditional Indonesian food in the public, especially younger generation. Also, provide an engaging visual-based educational medium that is accessible and appealing. 3. Contribute to the preservation of culinary heritage through the visual communication design. And the last one, encourage appreciation and pride in the richness of the diversity of Indonesian traditional food. Also for the literature review, first, culinary culture of cultural heritage. According to Wanta 2005, traditional food is a part of culture shaped by the social value and historical context of the community. And visual communication design in culture presentation, visual communication design plays a key role in effectively delivering cultural message, particular of educational context by Anggrani and Kirana 2004, and definition of ebooks. An ebook, an electronic book, is a digital application that can be accessed by electronic devices such as computers, tablets, and smartphones. Noel highlights that ebooks offer flexibility and content delivery, text, image, and even interactivity, making them a powerful medium for education. Also, the last one, definition of illustration, Horihide 2084, defines illustration as a form of visual aim of clarifying, beautifying, and explaining information. For the next one is for the methods. This project used a descriptive qualitative design approach, focusing on creating an educational visual medium in the form of an ebook. The data collecting process includes literature study from online culinary articles, design reference from various food illustration visual and stylistic analysis tailored to a younger audience. And also the design process is divided into the three main stages: pre-production, production, and post-production. And also for the next one is result and discussion. The ebook title Warisan Rasa Nusantara 12 Traditional Indonesian Dishes is designed in as educational visual medium presenting traditional dishes from various regions in Indonesia. Each part features an illustration, the dish origin, and the short, also easy to read description aimed a wide audience, especially younger readers. Also, a list of featured dishes are mie Aceh from Aceh, gulai ikan from Riau, rendang West Sumatra, kerak telur Jakarta, mangut lele Yogyakarta, bubur pedas Pontianak, ayam betutu Bali, sate bulek Lombok, sei sapi NTT, cakalang kuku Manado, buah ikan Maluku, and the last one papeda from Papua. The illustration in this project are digitally painted in the semi-realist painterly style. This approach allows for rich detail in texture and lighting while maintaining the artistic feel. It aims to both engage readers and make each dish look delicious and visual striking. Also for the deep background maroon is create contrast and elegance. The visual style aims to combine aesthetic value and cultural authenticity. For the next one is next. The creation is the ebook followed a structured workflow to ensure the final product meets both auditional and authentic goals. Each stage was designed to make sure the content, visual, and presentation would capture the reader's attention while clearly delivering in the intent message. Each general, the design process is divided into three main stages. The first one is pre-production. The pre-production stage, data in a culinary traditional and cultural background was collected from the reliable sources. The illustration style, semi-realistic painterly, was defined concise and engaging description were written, and through the sketches were created plan the layout of each page. Also, the production stage is executing of the design, including digitalizing and sketching using Procreate, arranging layouts of balanced text and visual, and selecting easy-to-read sans serif fonts combined with the warm food-inspired color palettes. And the last one, post-production. Finally, the post-production stage involved completing all the page into a PDF ebook, testing for readability and visual consistency, and making a final design adjustment before distribution. Also, you can see this is the final artwork. You can also scan this barcode if you want to see the ebook. And for the last conclusion, this ebook is a form of visual communication design aimed at preserving Indonesian culinary heritage through an accessible and visual engaging approach. It hopes to raise awareness about traditional foods and build cultural pride. In the future, this type of media can be expanded into more interactive forms like digital storytelling and printed educationally books to reach broader audience. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And also thank you very much for Miss Talita Artanti for your presentation. Yeah, your presentation is very clear and interesting. Now let's move on the Q&A session. Okay, the questions is, what is the main purpose on this ebook?
Okay, so my answer is to preserve and promote Indonesian traditional cuisine through the illustration. I think that is my answer.
Okay, Already? Already, Mr. Rita?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you again for Ms. Talita for your presentation and also the answer. Now let's continue with our next speaker is Miss Aninda Rizkita Rusiana as a student with the titles The Influence of Green Product Innovation and Green Advertising on Eco-Friendly Purchasing Intention for Solusi Marta Tilar Organic Renewage Products. Yeah, it's your time.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable to the leader present at today's event, let me introduce myself. My name is Aninda Rizkita Rusiana, ex-Master Management Student of the Universitas Informatika dan Bisnis Indonesia. Today I will present my research entitled The Influence of Green Product Innovation and Green Advertising on Eco-Friendly Purchasing Intention of Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution Products. Next. The background of global warming caused by corporate activities such as use of fossil fuel energy, deforestation, agriculture, animal husbandry, and waste. Figure 1.1, 424,000 from the previous year. Next. Therefore, companies in Indonesia contribute to green marketing, one of which is the cosmetic industry. According to BPS 2024, Indonesia has a population of around 281 million, of which 139 million are women, making the cosmetic industry a promising market. The Ministry of Industry stated that in 2024, shown in graph 1.1, the cosmetic business in Indonesia grew by 12.16%. Behind the 12.16% increase in the cosmetic industry, a survey conducted by Snapchat 2024 that 16% of people never buy environmentally friendly cosmetics. On graph 1.2 explain that there are several reasons why people never buy environmentally friendly products. 45% lack of understanding of the concept environmentally friendly lines, 22% expensive, 20% difficult to access to buy, 13% prefer conventional products. Next, one company that implement green marketing is Marta Tilaar. Sales dropped from 2017 to 2019, down almost 15% from 2017. Next. Green product innovation by Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution is depicted in figure 1.2, judging from figure 1.2, which states that there is still a large number of people who are less interested in green products. The innovation of Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution products has not received much attention from people who are not familiar with organic products. Of course, making Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution products only known to a few people and communities who are aware of the importance of sustainability for both themselves and environment. Next, judging from table 1.1, Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution is less active in marketing the product they sell, which makes Marta Tilaar Organic Renewage Solution only known to a few environmentally low communities. Also, the price tend to be more expensive Then other skincare product making Martha Tila Art Organic Rainbow Solution, still not very popular with the Indonesian people. Next, gap research. There are two research gaps included in the study. One, the cosmetic industry in Indonesia has grown by 12.16%, but 16% of Indonesians have never used environmentally friendly product, especially cosmetic. Two, the 0.16% increase in the cosmetic industry in Indonesia is in contrast to Martha Tila Art, whose sales have declined over the past 7 years. Next, problem formulation. One, what is the overview of green product innovation, green advertising, and eco-friendly purchasing attention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution? Two, how much influence does green product innovation have on eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution? Three, how much influence does green advertising have on eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution? Four, what is the overview of green product innovation, green advertising, and eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution? Next. Research objective. One, to determine the influence of green product innovation, green advertising, and eco-friendly purchasing intention on Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution. Two, to determine the extent of influence green product innovation has an eco-friendly purchasing intention on Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution. Three, to determine the extent of influence green advertising has on eco-friendly purchasing intention on Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution. Four, to determine the extent of influence green product innovation and green advertising have on eco-friendly purchasing intention on Martha Tila Art Organic Green Product Solution. Next, theoretical benefit and practical benefits. Next, theoretical basic. And state of the art. When the object of study is solusi Martha Tila Art Organic Greenwich, the first organic cosmetic brand in Indonesia. To the population used in this study is solusi Martha Tila Art Organic Greenwich in Instagram social media followers. Three, this study aims to explore the role of social media in shaping perceptions of green advertising, a topic that has not been widely studied in depth. Fourth, this study further explore the relationship between green product innovation, green advertising, and eco-friendly purchasing intention. Next, framework that is taken from management that lowered to marketing management that the author chose the concept of green marketing. The green product innovation variable takes the concept from the marketing mix, which is then defined with the theory of sustainability-oriented innovation. For green advertising, it is also taken from the marketing mix concept, which is then defined using the theory of integrated marketing communication. For the eco-friendly purchasing intention variable, it is taken from the concept of consumer behavior, which is then defined using the theory of planet behavior. Next, there is the research paradigm which produce the research hypothesis. H1, green product innovation has an influence on eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Solution products. H2, green advertising has an influence on eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Solution products. H3, green product innovation and green advertising have an influence on eco-friendly purchasing intention for Martha Tila Art Organic Green Solution products. Next, I will discuss the research methodology. I use a quantitative method with a descriptive and and verification approach. The population of my research is the followers of Marta Tila, our social media Instagram solution, which in my 2025 number 1654. The sample that has been calculated using the Isaac and Mesa formula is 233. My instrument testing use validity and reliability tests. For data testing technique use classical assumption test, including normality test, heterogeneity test, and multicollinearity test. Next, I perform multiple linear regression coefficient, multiple correlation coefficient, and the coefficient of determination. Lastly, hypothesis testing, I use t-test and f-test. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the speakers. Now we move open the Q&A. The Q&A is, why did you choose this title?
Okay, thank you, Miss. I chose this title because I noticed an increasing trend in consumer awareness towards environmentally friendly products, especially in the beauty industry. Solusi Marta Tilaar Organic Rainwatch is one of the products that apply the concept of sustainability and eco-friendly lines. This makes it interesting to study. Green product innovation and green advertising play an important role in influencing consumer attention to purchase eco-friendly purchasing intention. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation and also the answer, Miss Aninda. So now let's continue with our next speaker, with Mr. Hariman Muhammad Effendi as a alumni, with the titles Profitability in Retail Trade Pre and Post Tax Rate Change. Yeah, Mr. Hariman, it's your time.
Hello everyone, my name is Hariman Muhammad Effendi. Today I will be presenting my research on profitability in retail trade, pre and post tax rate change in Indonesia. You know what's the background? I have 2 points of background. Number one is Indonesian development depend on supportive economic policies and the availability of large amount of capital. Number two is the retail trade sector is the second largest tax contributor in Indonesia, but has not grown as fast as the other sector. Now, highlight the potential of improvement. What is a problem formulation? Number one is there a significant difference between the profitability of retail trade sector company for period 2016 to 2023, before and after change in corporate tax? How can change in corporate tax rate increase the tax ratio? Literature review. It's my theory. I'm pick theory. In this lesson, use the theory of planned behavior or TPB to understand the behavior of company in responding to change in tax regulation at Indonesia. On the variable is profitability measured by net profit margin or NPM. This ratio compare net profit after interest and tax to net sales. Now, hypothesis, each one is there is a significant difference in profitability before and after the corporate tax change. H2 is change in the corporate tax rate can be increased the tax ratio. Research methodology. Now, sequential mix method with an explanatory strategy. The study focused on 24 retail trade sector company list on Indonesian stock change from 2016 to 2023. sample of 9 company was selected but using purposive sampling, divide into 2 periods before and after the corporate tax change. A varied sample test was used to identify significant difference. The result hypothesis 1 is supported. A significant difference in profitability was found before and after corporate tax change rate. Average profitability of the sample company increased from 0.016 to 0.022 after the tax rate change. The significance value was 0.003, which is less than 0.05, and P or less than 0.0. It's confirming a significant difference. According to the theory of brand behavior, company respond to tax rate change by maximizing profitability driven by the reduced tax burden. For the ratio leads to our tax ratio. In economic context, the pandemic caused an economic downturn, prompting to the government to lower the corporate income tax to support recovery economic. Indonesian tax include relative falling to 8.33% in 2020 due to the pandemic and recovering to 10.21% in 2023, driven by tax reform and economic improvement. The conclusion of this, number one is there is a significant difference in profitability of retail trade sector company during the period 2016 to 2023 before and after the corporate tax rate change. And the number two is change in the corporate tax rate can increase company profitability, which in turn help increase the tax ratio in Indonesian economy. Okay. Thanks for attention, everyone, and see you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Hariman for the clear and also interesting presentation. Now let's continue with the Q&A session. So the questions is, what is the impact of change in the corporate tax rate on the tax revenue ratio in Indonesia?
Yeah, thanks for question, and let me answer that question. The impact of change in the corporate tax rate on the tax revenue ratio in Indonesia can be significant. When the government reduces the corporate tax rate, the immediate effect is a potential decline in tax revenue collection per unit of the profit. However, in the long term, lower tax rate may encourage business expansion, attraction investment, and increase corporate compliance, which can lead to higher overall tax revenue and an improved tax ratio. Okay, when the tax rate is increased, it may raise short-term government revenue, but it can also discourage investment, reduce profitability, and incentive tax avoidance. And the last, which in turn may lower the efficiency of tax collection and weaken the tax revenue ratio. That's my answer. Maybe I can answer that question. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Hariman for your presentation and also the answer. So now let's continue with our next speaker with Mr. Muhammad Rozan Akila as a student with the titles AI for Sovereign Machine Learning Perspective on Freedom Trends. Yes, it's your time.
Hello everyone, let me introduce myself as the representative of my group. My name is Muhammad Rozan Akila. I am from Indonesian University of Informatics and Business, or for short UNIBI. On this occasion, it is a pleasure of mine to be given this opportunity to present the results of our research about AI for sovereignty, machine learning perspectives on freedom trends. So, the purpose of this study is to compare 3 regression algorithms Decision tree, XGBoost, and random forest in predicting a country's freedom status based on available quantitative data. This approach aims to determine which model offers the best accuracy and efficiency in analyzing global freedom trends. To better understand the importance of this comparison, it is essential to first define what we mean by global freedom and why it matters in this research context. So, global freedom refers to the extent to which individuals can exercise their political rights and civil liberties in a country, such as freedom of expression, opinion, and participation in governments. This indicator is used to assess the level of democracy and respect for human rights globally. The dataset used comes from Freedom House, covering the years 2013 to 2022. It includes scores and indicators related to political and civil liberties across various countries, making it highly suitable for predictive modeling using machine learning. With the dataset prepared and the regression approach selected, the next step is to outline how the modeling process was carried out. This flowchart provides a clear overview of the workflow. This flowchart illustrates the modeling process for predicting a country's freedom status using machine learning algorithms. It begins with importing the dataset, followed by label encoding and splitting the data into training and testing sets. Then, three algorithms, random forest, XGBoost, and decision tree, are applied for prediction. Each model's performance is evaluated through the testing and training, measured using accuracy, and further analyzed with a feature correlation heat map. With the modeling workflow in mind, we can now explore how each algorithm performed. First up is the decision tree. Simple definition of decision tree is a simple and intuitive machine learning algorithms that builds a predictive model in the form of tree structure. In this study, decision tree is the most interpretable model but showed the lowest performance in the study. It recorded MAE score of 0.4359, MSE score of 0.7947, and R-square score of 0.9991, suggesting higher error rates compared to the other two models. Despite its lower accuracy, it remains valuable for its transparency and easy to follow decision flow. This model is suitable for use cases that prioritize interpretability over predictive precision. Next is extreme gradient boosting, or known as XGBoost. It's a highly efficient and powerful ensemble algorithms built on the gradient boosting framework. XGBoost also performed very well, coming close to random forest in accuracy. It achieved MAE score of 0.2361, MSE score of 0.225, 2225, and a strong R-square score of 0.9997, indicating its ability to maintain high accuracy with slightly higher error margins. XGBoost offers a solid balance between efficiency and predictive strength, especially for structured data. This makes it well suited for large-scale modeling tasks where speed and scalability are important. After evaluating XGBoost, we then compared it with random forest, which turned out to deliver the highest accuracy and consistency. Random forest is an ensemble method that builds multiple decision trees independently and then combines their predictions to produce a more accurate and stable final result. In this study, we found that random forest demonstrated best overall performance among the three models. It achieved the lowest MAE of 0.1454 and the lowest MSE of 0.1166, indicating minimal prediction errors. Additionally, it recorded the highest R-square score of 0.9999, which shows that the model can explain nearly all the variance in the data. This makes random forest ideal for scenarios that demand high precision and reliability in predicting a country's freedom status. So, in conclusion, each algorithm has its own strength, and the choice depends on users' needs. If high accuracy and stability are the priority, random forest is the best choice. However, if transparency and speed are more important, decision tree and XGBoost remain useful options. That concludes our presentation. We hope this research provides valuable insights and serves as a foundation for future developments. Thank you for your attention and the opportunity. We appreciate your time and interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Hariman Muhammad Effendi for your presentation and also interesting presentation. Now let's move on the Q&A sessions. Okay, the questions is, why did you choose regression algorithms instead of classification for this study?
All right, thank you. Let me answer the question. Because our dataset consists of numerical values with multiple columns, regression allows us to measure prediction accuracy more effectively. It also helps identify which variables have the most influence on the model. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Rozan Akila. Thank you so much for your presentation and also the answer. Okay, now we will move to the last speaker in the conference international by today. So it's your time, Miss Misha Duiana, as a student with the titles "The Effect of Firm Size and Sales Growth on Capital Structure in the Food and Beverage Sector," listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange in 2020 until 2025. It's your time, Miss Misha.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for being here. I am Misha Duyana, and today I will present my research on the influence of firm size and sales growth on capital structure in the food and beverage sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange in 2020 to 2024. Let's begin. Research background: the food and beverage sector is an important industry because it is directly related to basic human needs and tends to be related to economic fluctuation. However, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the sector experienced significant pressure due to social restrictions, discrete income, and supply chain disruption. In such a situation, capital structure becomes crucial. Capital structure reflects the proportion between debt and equity used by a company to finance its operation and investment. Choosing the right capital structure is essential to maintain financial stability and business continuity. And this represents the average value of the capital structure. Next, an optimal capital structure balance debt and equity to enhance efficiency and competitive. Firm size is a key internal factor. Large firms have easy access to funding due to great stability, while small firms face more challenge. In the F&B sector, firm size play a crucial role, especially during economic pressure such as the pandemic. And this represent the average value of the firm size. And next, during the pandemic, firm size growth show how large companies adapt to stay competitive. Another key factor is sales growth. Firms with strong sales are more confident in using them. In the F&B sectors, sales varied, some decline, others grew by embracing digital trends. Both firm size and sales growth are crucial in capital structure decision, and this represent the average value of the sales growth. And next, formation of the problems. One, how do firm size and sales growth influence capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange from 2020 to 2024? And two, how significant in the partial effect of firm size on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange from 2020 to 2024. And three, how significant is the partial effect of sales growth on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange from 2020 to 2024. And last, how significant is the simultaneous effect of firm size and sales growth on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange from 2020 to 2024. And next, research objective. One, identify to overview of firm size and sales growth in the F&B sector listed on Indonesian sector stock exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. Two, analyze the partial effect of firm size on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian stock exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. And three, analyze the partial effect of sales growth on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. And four, analyze the simultaneous effect of firm size and sales growth on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. And this ada conceptual framework. This research begin with the broader concept of management, which then narrow down to financial management. From financial management, the focus shift to financial statement analysis and signaling theory. Financial statement analysis further led to key aspects such as capital structure and sales growth. Meanwhile, signaling theory connect to firm size, which play a significant role in interpreting market signal and investment decision. And this research paradigm. And next, research hypothesis. Hypothesis 1, firm size has a significant partial effect on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. Hypothesis 2, sales growth has a significant partial effect on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange during the period 2020-2024. And last, hypothesis 3, firm size and sales growth have a significant simultaneous effect on capital structure in the F&B sector listed on the Indonesian Stock Exchange during the period 2020 to 2024. And next, research methodology, research method. This study used a quantitative method with both descriptive and verificative approach. And next, data collection technique, secondary data from literature study and annual report, article, journal, books, and preview studies. And population and sample, population 120 financial statement from 24 company and sample 90 financial statement from 80 company. Next, data analysis method, classic assumption test. The tests used are 1. Normality test, multicollinearity test, heteroscedasticity test, and autocorrelation test. Next, multilinear regression analysis. This method is used to examine the influence of relationship between two or more variables, particulation the relationship between independent and dependent variable. Next, multiple correlation coefficient analysis. It refers to a numerical value that represent the direction and strength of the relationship between multiple independent variable and the single dependent variable. And next, analyze of coefficient of determination. It is used to determine the magnitude of the influence of the independent variable on the dependent variable, which is expressed as a percentage. And next, hypothesis testing. One, t-test at partial. This test is used to examine whether each independent variable has a significant partial or one-tailed effect on the dependent variable. And next, v-test, simultan. The purpose is to assess whether all independent variables specific in the model collectively have a significant effect on the dependent variable. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for Miss Meisha Dwiana for your presentation, and also for that excellent talk. We have now reached the Q&A sessions and discussion sessions. We received many questions actually, but because our time limit, we will take only the top 2 questions. So our first questions is, what is a capital structure? And the second is, why do firm size use signaling theory in their framework?
Okay, thank you for question. Let me answer. Question 1. Capital structure is the proportion of debt and equity used by a company to finance its operation. And question 2. Firm size acts as signal because large firms are seen as more stable and capable of handling risks. So their financing decisions send positive signal to investor. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you so much for Miss Nisha. Okay, for all, the international conference already finished. On behalf of the commit, I would like to thank all our speaker and also the participant for your valuable time and also the contribution. We hope to see you again in the next sessions. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference. But before leave from this Zoom, we will take a group photo. Please open the camera for all participants. Okay, please open your camera. We will take photo together. Mr. Muhammad Rozan Akila. I cannot see your face. And also Miss Aninda, Miss Talita. Can you open your camera first? Okay. Okay, I think we can take photo sessions. Miss Aninda, are you ready? Hello, Miss Aninda? Sorry, I cannot see your face. And maybe for the Miss Tripayara and also Mr. Hariman, can you using the virtual background right now? Okay, can you use the virtual background? Sorry, your voice is not clearly. Hello? Okay, Mr. Hariman, are you there? Miss Aninda? You have some issue with your camera or any others issue maybe?
I can take the background.
Oh, you cannot use the background?
Yeah, Miss.
Oh, how about Miss Tripayala? Okay, maybe operator, you can take the picture because some presenters cannot use the background. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, wait, Miss Talita, are you there? Wait, can we retake again? Miss Talita, okay, 1, 2. Okay, maybe I think already enough. Ms. Zahwa and all the participants, thank you so much again for all the participant and speaker. It's very good, and hopefully you enjoy for the international conference by today. Again, thank you so much. See you.
Thank you, Miss. See you.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you.